Welcome to Developer Days Online. I'm Mikako Harada from Autodesk. Today, I'm going to talk about the Autodesk Construction Cloud API updates. This presentation is similar to what I presented at the Autodesk University last year, but we'll also have updates since the last Autodesk universities. A little bit of myself. I manage a group of engineers who provide API support with a special emphasis on the AEC industry and then products such as Revit, BIM 360, ACC, and Forge. You can find more about myself on my personal blog. Safe harbor statement. This presentation includes forward-looking information. They are current expectation, not a promise, and they may change. So please do not make purchase decisions based on these statements. Agenda. First, I will give you a quick overview of Autodesk Construction Cloud Unified Products. I then talk about the latest status of BIM 360 and ACC API, including recent update. We'll talk about, we'll look at this by each product modules. We'll then look at the two new API areas in more detail. One is a Model Properties API. Model Properties API is a tool that you can use to query, filter properties, and then compare versions of a model. Takeoff recently released the API, so I'm going to talk about Takeoff also. Finally, we will share and discuss API in the pipeline. Autodesk Construction Cloud Product Overview. Autodesk Construction Cloud Unified Products released last year. There are 5 products. First one is Autodesk BIM Collaborate, and then BIM Collaborate Pro. These are for design workflow. And then Autodesk Takeoff for 2D and 3D quantifications, and Autodesk Build for project and field management. This brings together the best of BIM 360 and Plan Grid into a single product. And these share the common foundation layers, which are Autodesk Docs for common data environment. It also includes Insight for analytics and data extraction and administrations. Here is a list of modules side by side. ACC on the left with light colored header, and BIM 360 on the right side on a dark color headers. ACC unified products are branded as a new, but you'll see tools that you are already familiar through the BIM 360 experience. ACC subscription include BIM 360 too, so you can create both ACC and then BIM 360 project once you have an ACC account. Autodesk Docs is a common environment for all products. It includes Docs, document management, Insight, project account admin. Autodesk BIM Collaborate, including design collaboration and model coordinations. Takeoff is available only in ACC. And ACC Build combine Autodesk Build combine the project management, field management, asset, which goes under build, and then cost. And next, let's take a look at the latest status of BIM 360 and ACC API, including recent updates. Accessing API is the same as BIM 360. Currently, you need to go to BIM 360 account admin UI and then settings to provision your apps. Custom integration tabs should be active by default for new accounts. We have added a new API type, ACC, in Developer Portal. If you are using BIM 360 ACC compatible APIs, you can continue using BIM 360 API type. If you are using ACC specific APIs, you will need to choose ACC as a product proxy type. This is a big picture version of API changes in ACC. Main changes you may want to be aware are with the issues, admin, and checklist. Data management API that is common across Autodesk product has no change, but there are also doc-specific APIs, and they are also slightly different. Ones under no change on the right side are compatible with ACC and BIM 360. Next, we'll quickly go through APIs in each module, focusing on differences in ACC compared to BIM 360. Document management. There are a few doc-specific APIs that require attention because of the feature changes. One of such a thing is there is no plans folder in ACC. So that means that the single page extraction of PDF export API is not applicable for ACC. And also permissions. There is a slight change how the permission is set in ACC. So if you are using API document itself is the same, but you may need to use a different keyword or a combination to set the permissions. Custom attribute. There is a behavior change in the project after March 23rd last year. API we have is based on the older behavior, so we'll need to have the update, and this is still to come. And to distinguish if your project is ACC or BIM 360, you can check get project type under data attribute extension data. Not directly related to ACC release, but create folder command was deprecated by last month or the January 2022. So I hope you already migrated, but just in case I'm putting here. So please use the post project folder instead. And another thing to add is that the project lead API for naming standard convention is available now. It was added last year. Design collaboration now support Revit, DWG, and IFC. And Pro version supports Civil 3D and Plant 3D cloud models. And from API side, API used in a change visualization is available now as a part of model properties APIs. It is called diff within model properties and allows you to compare two versions of models. We'll come back to this later. Model coordination. No change in API for ACC, it's compatible, but there is a new APIs, model properties, the ones I just explained earlier. And this one is also known as indexing V2 APIs. Again, I will come back to this later. Takeoff is an ACC only feature, and it offers a tool for quantification for 2D and 3D. API was released last November, And scope of the first release was to read the inventory data. And then first set of write API for project setting and classification was released in February this year. And build side asset API was released last year and as a beta, and the API is compatible for both BIM 360 and ACC. It provides both BIM 360 and construction endpoint, but it's point to the same background. As a small enhancement, there is additional query parameters for creating status set custom attributes. And then we also had some utilities to list the error code. And then asset, so this is some deprecation warnings. Asset specific relationship was provided before relationship API was released. And it was supposed to be the temporary before we have a relationships right API releases. And relationship API was released last year. Right API was released last year. So we no longer need to use this asset-specific relationship. So we can use this relationship API instead. RFI API is compatible, except that ACC version does not support attachment. And construction endpoints are also deprecated. So please use a BIM 360 endpoint, which works for both ACC and then BIM 360. Checklist is a BIM 360 only feature. ACC uses the forms. It has read-only APIs and not compatible. Form is an ACC feature, and it has a read-only APIs. PDF and web forms are supported, and it can be also used as a checklist and then reporting purposes. There is two endpoints, get form templates and then forms. Location ID field was added later last year. Photo is also ACC specific features, and there is a read APIs. There is two endpoints, the post for photos with the filters, and then get photos photo with the photo IDs. Both are read only APIs. Cost is compatible for both environment, and the engineering team is planning to release the webhooks this year, and this is a roadmap. And then the cost API team is more from the feedback. The release is a new feature based on the feedback. So if you have a feedback, feel free to contact us. Insight. Data Connector API was released last year as a public beta. API itself is compatible for both environment, while data may vary depending on the environment. As to the enhancement, we have a schema in JSON format was added to make it easier for coders. And project level access, right now it's only for account level, but project level access is on the roadmap. Admin API, existing BIM 360 admin API is only partially compatible in ACC. And currently, unfortunately, we can't create a project for ACC at the moment. But this is a very demanded, high priority areas. Issue is a shared services, and this is used in multiple modules as well as desktop products. Existing BIM 360 API issue is not compatible in ACC, so we are waiting for a new set of API, and this again, high priority areas. Another shared service is services are locations, which is read-only at this point, and then relationships, right? API was released last summer, and you can use it to define reference relations. And then also model property was just released. Again, I will come back to this shortly. For more information, please refer to the release note, product help, and then blog post. Ones in the bold under blog post, under the blog list is the ones on Forge portal and released. I think it was released after the AU last year. Next, I will look at the model properties APIs. Model properties API is built on top of SVF2. For those who are not familiar with SVF2, which is SVF2 is an enhanced version of viewable format that derivative service produces. It extends the properties data for the analysis of the BIM 360 BIM models, and there are two main functions. One is index, which is a query and filter property of models, and then diff. This one is used to compare two versions of a model. This API works with the models in BIM 360 and ACC docs. So currently, documentation appears only under ACC, but this should work for both, and then documentation should be fixed soon. Sample applications. The first one is to compare two versions of the model and then visualizes the differences in Forge, differences in a Forge viewer. Difference can be a geometric and then properties. So first calling diff functions and now calculating in the back end. So first you see with the green is added element, and then red means that the removed items. And then third one, blue. Blue is a change items. And then now he is showing where it is by clicking each item. So now we show this, and then now the red one is the one which is removed. And then change items, geometry changed, or you can also look at the property change as well. So this one, it shows the elevation has changed. So now on property dialog, property panel, you can check the elevation. So now elevation on the left, say 10.66, and then elevation on the right is 8.7, but indeed it's changed. So the next one is filtering elements and partial model load. This sample demonstrates filtering element by properties, which can be geometric and properties such as length and height. Filter condition is defined as a binary expression form and can be combined by AND or OR. The results are visualized using 4G viewers. So now take a look at the demos. In this demos, first he shows the filtering with the floor element. Now it's indexing. Now indexing is done. So it's querying with the floor at the third floor. And you can see only the third floor is displayed with instead of whole model. And now he's adding one more Revit windows. So now you see the window category window is shown. Now moving to the next model and indexing right now. So now adding Revit ducts and ducts and then length is greater than certain amount, 6.0, and then adding another filter, Revit duct fitting and supply type with supply air, and then query. Then by visualizing it, you can see only the ducts and then duct fittings. In this example, we are using viewers, but the indexing itself doesn't require viewers. It's just that in this case, it makes more sense, or it's easier to look at the result using viewers. So the developer resource, we have very good documentation on this APIs. Field guide section has a very good introduction to the model properties. This gives you a very good foundational information about API. And step-by-step tutorial section includes 3 tutorials. The third one is include a list of available query conditions and expressions. And then reference section is divided into 2 subsections, index and then diff. And endpoints and the flows are very similar between those 2, index and then diff. We also provide code samples on GitHub. First one is a Postman collection. This collection corresponds to the 3 step-by-step tutorials. Then model properties API walkthrough in PowerShell core. This is an interesting one. You can use this to script to explore our query language. And then the demo samples we just show. We also provide a code and available in the GitHub too. We also have a blog post with all the links to references and then also code samples. So you can find a blog post on our developer portals. Next, Takeoff API. As I mentioned earlier, Takeoff API was released last November. The scope of initial release was read inventory data, which include packages, takeoff, item type, and measurement systems, and content view. And then recently, we released the first set of Write APIs, which include a project setting with a measurement and classifications. And next, we'd like to show 2 sample applications using Takeoff APIs. The first sample is to export Takeoff data to CSV. This application reads inventory data in Takeoff and then create a custom web page, then export to CSV. This example is to demonstrate a basic read of access to the Takeoff modules. And we are hoping to enhance this API, the samples to include this first set of Light API, but we are still in the process of doing it. So we'll update shortly. So first, this is a Takeoff UI. And taking one package and looking at the inventory data in the UI, which will be extracting using API. And now we are showing the web applications. And here is the result of extracting the package data and then data. And then now we want to download this data as a CSV, download or export CSV. So for instance, there is a linoleum tiles informations. Let's take a look at the one in the CSV. And then you see, I think he is going to, yes, you can see that the same data is extracted in CSV files. Second example, extract quantity data from the Takeoff module, calculate and feed to the budget in the cost module. It also shows where the quantity data is coming from in design models. First, taking Takeoff inventory data in UI is shown here. And this is an example of the models. I use the models in example. And in web applications, you can see the same model is used here and using a viewer in the web applications. And here is another wall example. And then using a price book, you can calculate this. Quantity data and then amount. So this one, we want to send this data to the ACC cost modules. And currently, if you look at the cost module, it's empty. So now it's sending to the ACC. Now budget are imported to ACC cost modules. And then if you refresh, budget data should be populated in ACC module. Documentation for Takeoff include one step-by-step tutorials that shows how to extract inventory data. And then of course, we have a reference guide. And then code samples, we also have a Postman collection for each endpoint. And 2 demo samples you just saw are also available as a code samples on our GitHub. And if you search with a Takeoff as a keyword, you will hit them. And we also have 2 blog posts on our Forge Dev portal, also list all the links to the available resources. So what's in the pipeline? So here I'm summarizing API in the pipeline for each module, including a few we already mentioned, and then under review, as well as high priority items based on demand and frequency of being requested. So for instance, docs has a few items lined up, including the enhanced custom attribute. And then build has some gaps to fill. I included the issues here, but together with most of the API, we need a right APIs. And then admin API, the admin API is often used to automating project creation in scale. So we are kind of waiting, create a project, and also create a project with a template, and then adding a users beyond docs. Those are the highly demanded features. And there is also the model coordination, design collaboration also. These are the items in the pipeline. There was a separate 4G roadmap session led by Jim Quancy, Cyril Faubel, and Jim Gray at the Autodesk University last year. And Jim Gray, director from the construction team, talks about ACC API roadmap and then vision for this year's from API perspective. So for plan for the future, please refer to the section. And then as a kind reminder, we have a few action items if you are using these APIs. RFI construction endpoint are duplicated, so please use a BIM 360 endpoint. Asset-specific relationships endpoints will be deprecated, so please use the relationship APIs. Model coordination indexing V1 will be deprecated. Use the model properties and APIs, index APIs. So summary, in this session, I talked about the latest status of ACC APIs. Model properties and Takeoff are two areas that we released API recently. And here is a 4G resources. And thank you for listening.